Welcome everybody, thanks for coming to the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education regular meeting for February 23rd. Can we please take an attendance call?
Absolutely. Mark Berry.
Present.
Leanne Charlo, present. Gatchell, absent. Peg.
Present.
Hood.
Present.
Morrison.
Present.
Ryder. Present.
Okay, we have 6 out of 7, we've got a quorum, we can begin. And we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, we ask if anybody in the audience would like to address the board. It's time for public comment. Please feel free to do so. If not, let it be known that we have an additional public comment period at the end of the meeting, so you will have an opportunity to comment if something of interest comes up. Number 5, addition of a discussion item. We offer this opportunity for the board to suggest a future agenda item or a discussion item that we need to address this evening. There are some things that are memorialized for future discussion, but let the board have the opportunity to suggest something if they want to make a point. If not, we'll continue on to item number 6, which is recognition, and I hand that to Dr. Sophie.
Actually, I'm going to hand this over to Mrs. St. Clair, who just gets to present the most exciting news.
Good evening, everybody. I want to introduce Maeve Higgins. She's a 5th grade student at our school in Mrs. Weinberger's class. And she won recognition for a Daughters of the American Revolution essay that she wrote about American history. And Mrs. Weinberger and her whole family and I were able to attend the ceremony on February 11th, which is at Korea. And so Maeve won this medal, and she got to read her essay to the group, and she would like to read it to you all this evening.
I'm going to give her this little award before she does it. There you go.
Want to turn that down, just push the mic down just a little bit.
And then you step a little closer. There we go.
A colonialist family's reaction to the Stamp Act. Below is what I think a young girl living in the colonies would be thinking, feeling, and writing in her diary during this important period of time in our country. Year 1763. Dear Diary, the French and Indian War is almost over. I can see limping soldiers coming and going into people's homes. The American colonies won, but only with the help of the British Army. Mother and father are worried about the cost this victory will have in the American colonies. Year 1764. Dear Diary, Mother and father have been reading about England's increased debt. People in England are already heavily taxed. Father says the Prime Minister is proposing to tax the colonies to raise in value. The tax would be in form of a stamp on all documents and legal paper. Father prints the town newspaper. I'm worried people will stop buying newspapers if they become too expensive. How will they pay for our house? How will we get food? How will I get a new doll for Christmas? February 16, 1765. Dear Diary, there are British soldiers walking in our streets. Father's fear have come true. King George wants the colonies to pay for the soldiers' protection and the debt for the wars. Debts from the war. To raise money, Parliament has passed a new law called the Stamp Act. Now we have to pay taxes on newspapers, pounds, marriage licenses, and playing cards. Most of the colonists are not happy. Father and mother are worried, so am I. April 1765. Dear Diary, Father is now protesting in the streets and joined a secret club of true patriots, the Sons of Liberties. Mother and the other women are refusing to buy British clothing. Father will no longer take me to work with him because of the violence that's been happening in the streets. October 1765. Dear Diary, my father has been chosen to go to a gathering in New York with other men from 9 different colonies. A meeting is called the Stamp Act Congress. The colonies thought it was unfair that we have no say making laws. Father calls it taxation without representation, and no one likes it. Many stamp masters have resigned due to the violence and protesting. March 1766. Dear Diary, people are dancing in the streets because Parliament has replied the law. We are still under control of Great Britain and the King still has the right to tax us, but Father believes we are one step closer from being free from Britain.
And there you have it. Thank you very much, Maeve. Here you go. And Maeve and her family are actually moving to Charleston right before spring vacation. So her mom was a past PTO president at LBES, and they have 3 girls at our school. So this is a great way to highlight Maeve's talents. So thanks you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great job.
Nicely done.
Wow,
That's not bad.
very cool. Okay, so we're gonna move on to reports. Margaret St. Clair, principal of the elementary school.
Okay, well, on February 11th, I went to a DAR ceremony for a student at our school. We have had a busy month, mostly evaluation season being upon us. March 1st is our deadline, so Tracy and I and Nate have all been toiling away. We are pleased to report at LBS that those are all finished up. We are really thankful and appreciative that we've been able to have Paul McKinney in our building a couple of days so that we could really meet with parents or with teachers kind of back to back to get those summative conferences done. It's really nice to be able to concentrate just on those and on the teachers when they come in. And I kind of equate it with our parent, it's like our parent-teacher conference. It's an important conversation and one we want to put a lot of time towards. So we're happy that we were able to have then an administrator in the building so that we could really focus on our teachers. So that's about it for LBES.
Item number 2 would be the middle school report and Principal Nate Blackburn.
Good evening. It's been busy at the middle school. Last week was the 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. We left on Wednesday and returned on Friday. One of the things that I've said as I talked to people all week this week is just how proud of our students we were. They did an incredible job. Beyond what we could have expected with some challenges with the travel. We had one flight that was actually canceled the night before we departed, frantically rescheduled for 2 hours earlier, and then had to coordinate communication with all of the families to get the students to arrive to school instead of 5:15 in the morning at 3:30 in the morning. And every single one of them did that, and they were smiling and happy and got to Washington, D.C., and all was well. And then there was a bit of a delay on a return, a few hours with the wind on Friday, but everyone made it home safe and sound. And the reports that I've received from students and their parents has been that it was a really great experience. We saw a lot. This was the first year I've worn anything that tracks my steps, but I can tell you we did about 10 miles on Thursday, 8 or 9 on Wednesday, and something similar to that on Friday. So in addition to seeing the sights, they also got their steps in. Also, wanted to thank you, as it is evaluation season. I heard Margaret say that theirs are all done. Mine will be at the end of this week. We're very close. Really wanted to thank you for allowing Joanne Trahanas to come into the middle school and help to handle the day-to-day administrative duties as I'm working with the teachers, meeting with teachers to do the summative and post-observation meetings. It's a big task and certainly one that's really important. So thank you. Wanted to make sure to pass that along. And that concludes my report. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think we have a PTO report tonight, right? And anything from the Alliance? Okay. And so we're going to have Wendy White from the Alliance. In addition to these wonderful magnetic automobile stickers that we got.
Yes, they are magnet.
Excellent.
We're really pleased with how they came out. It was great. So enjoy. I just want to remind everyone that Alliance is always accepting donations. So if you forgot to donate at the end of last year, it's not too late. You can always donate online at lb65alliance.org. Or you can just sit tight and wait. We've decided to put out a spring appeal letter to remind folks of all the cool things that we provide to the schools. And we love doing that. But of course, we need the public support in order to be able to provide the things that we do. And to kind of highlight the middle school renovation, kind of how much we're looking forward to making a meaningful contribution to the classrooms once that's underway. So I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks.
Jay, anything tonight? Mr. Jay Kahn, the Director of Finance and Operations.
Just wanted to point out the list of items in your board packet of which we're disposing. They are of little value, they're obsolete or broken, but we're just reporting them to the board for information as per board policy. And also wanted to point out that we discussed the Olson Transportation contract extension at the COW meeting. We're not going to bring that tonight for approval because our attorneys are still reviewing it, so it'll be coming back in March.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Kevin, anything tonight? Dr. Rubenstein?
Yeah.
So we're going to have our Director of Student Services, Technology and Assessment, Dr. Kevin Rubenstein.
2 years ago, the board approved a contract with a company called InfoSnap to provide registration and pre-registration software. And that has been really successful over the past couple of years. And in fact, after we did it, then our 2 neighboring districts did it as well. So we have decided to renew the contract. Again, they asked for an ongoing renewal, and we talked them back into a 2-year renewal of the contract at $8,800 per year, which is well worth what we are getting in terms of the time and paperwork saved. It's really a fully automated process, and they add things to it every single year that really save us time, energy, and data loss. So just wanted to update the board on that.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank
Thanks. President's report. Not much to say except that I am going to put out an appeal to my fellow board members to see if anybody is interested in becoming the district representative to the NSSED. I have recently been asked to sit on a panel in the community to work on the North Chicago situation. And between personal commitments and that panel, I just can't keep going in so many directions at the same time. And so it's not an emergency, it doesn't have to happen right away. And if anybody would like to explore it further to be that representative, it's typically a once a month commitment on a Wednesday evening, often following our board meeting. Let me know and I can talk you through it. I can bring you to a few meetings to see if you're interested, coach you or not. So think on it and please let me know. Other than that, briefly, slight NSSED update. I think I've told you guys we have a new superintendent starting at the end of beginning of July, which is very exciting. And the other thing to highlight is, if you recall, there's been a couple times where we have brought to you for approval motions when a board has decided, when it has chosen, the school district has chosen to pull out of the NSSED, and we have to approve a motion, and we've all kind of looked at it like, we don't understand this, why are we doing this is kind of weird. And that's been the reaction through all of NSSED, and so they're changing NSSED policy so that there's a whole specific set of things that the district that wants to withdraw has to go through, one of which is a whole checklist of things that they then hand to us that proves that they've done their due diligence, that what they're doing will not affect kids in the district, because that's ultimately what we have to vote on. When we approve somebody pulling out of NSSED, we're saying we know that you could provide services to the kids in your district on your own, and we've been always saying, how do we know that? So now they're making it very formalized that they can hand us something that shows exactly how they'll do that. So if we have to make such a vote and be liable for that, we can do it with confidence. So that's about the highlight for an SICD, but it's all looking good there. So if anybody is interested in that role, please contact me at some point. And moving on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Jean Sophie.
Just a couple things. We do have a representative group of teachers working with both Kelly and Margaret on standards-based grading. Because we are realizing our report cards do not in any way align with what we're teaching. So it only makes sense that we have to figure out how to report based and align to our curriculum. So we will have a lot of exciting news with that, and our team, I've been told, has made excellent progress, so we're really excited about that. Nate and I had a great meeting last week at White and Company down in Darien. We discussed colors, finishes, floors, etc. on our renovations. Craig is going to bring you up to speed on that very shortly. Very exciting. He has some really cool pictures to share with you. Yesterday, a group of representatives, state legislators, mayors, school board presidents, and school district superintendents met to share and discuss the following. Recent and current work by the state-appointed executive director, oversight boards, administrators, teachers, and staff at North Chicago District 187 to stabilize their district and move the district forward financially and in their student achievement. We also discussed the current factors threatening the short and long-term financial viability of North Chicago District 187 in light of anticipated loss of state special financial allocation and the possible state decision to overturn the recent District 187 board decision that denies creation of a second charter school. We also discussed strategies to support the short and long-term viability of North Shore District 187 to provide its students a quality education at a neighborhood public school. As Mark shared, Mark will be on that committee along with Kathy O'Hara, who's representing Lake Bluff as our village president. Today, Nate and I had a very exciting photo shoot with, is it Forest and Bluff? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Magazine for the area.
That's a glossy magazine.
And it's a glossy magazine. And it was, I don't like photo shoots. And it was really to promote PTO's Big Derby fundraising event, which will be held on April 30th. A lot of the proceeds, a certain percentage, will be going to our renovations. So I've been told it will be a fun night and a great event, and I'm certainly hoping that all of us can make it and support their great work.
When is that going to be?
Saturday, April 30th, at the, I think they're having it at the Park District, Lake Bluff Park District.
Oh, I'm in the tent maybe.
I don't think they're going to put it in the tent, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Finally, tomorrow, I will be battling rain, snow, and whatever else comes up tomorrow morning to get downtown to meet with the state superintendent of schools regarding the kindergarten assessment. I'm hoping for the best, and I don't think the best will happen, but we'll figure that out later. If we do not get any kind of acknowledgement or allowance for local control, I will be sharing with both our alliance and our parent groups what is going on, because we'll all be performing really notifying our school district so parents can make contact with legislators and the State Board of Education. Again, this is in regards to allowing school districts across the state to assess kindergartners however they want to assess them, and not allowing the state to have a formal mandate for the assessment. I think the key part in that I found out about since the last board meeting is the state cannot pull our recognition, which is the most important thing we have, because kindergarten is not a mandatory grade. So it's kind of hard to do that. And there are a lot of political issues tied in. I'm dealing with at least 20 superintendents that are very unhappy I would never want to deal with 20 on-campus superintendents. It's not a good group right now. So I will report out in my board update how that goes tomorrow, but I'm expecting to be downtown most of the morning for that. And that concludes my report.
Great. So then we move on to item 8, discussions and presentations, and we begin with our LBMS renovations update. And Tom and Craig. Tom Carano from IHC Construction Management. With some exciting news, I hope. No pressure, Tom.
There is pressure, Tom.
Yeah, there is.
Work your magic, Tom.
Yeah, and it's really just beginning. What I've handed out is a updated estimate actual sheet. Last Wednesday, we received bids on bid release number 2, which included trade package 4A masonry, 7A roofing, and 8A aluminum storefront and curtain wall. Of those 3 bids, we came in approximately $96,000 under estimate.
Excellent.
So it was a good 3 bids.
Tom, I apologize.
No,
I was sharing with you. Can you just tell which ones were they again?
They were 4A masonry,
Yep.
7A roofing, and 8A aluminum storefront.
Great.
Masonry, we received 9 bids. I've attached the bid tabulations along with it, ranging from the 616 up to 776.
Oh, good. Pretty tight.
Roofing, we received 4 bids, pretty much from 170 up to almost 250. And then aluminum, we received 5 bids from the 255 up to, I think it was 383 as our high number. One thing is just in how estimating is anything but a science. If you kind of look at the aluminum bids and our alternate number 3, the addition of 1 skylight, we get a range of bids from $24,000 to $96,000.
Same specs?
Same specs, same 1 skylight. And with a variety of numbers in between, 50, 60. It's just it's anything but a science. But it was a very good turnout, obviously good results. And we have vetted the mason and the roofer. We have one other thing to confirm with the curtain wall contractor, and then we will be submitting recommendations to Gene for next week's approval.
Okay.
Just an update in terms of construction, we have mobilized. We began our first progress meeting with the contractors this morning. And
Is there a trailer out there?
there's a trailer out there.
Wow.
Yep. And we are going to start next week.
And the other thing that's greened out, the
Sure.
site utilities,
That was from the first bid release. Yeah. Anything greened out is actuals that have been accomplished. We're going to be receiving the bid release 3 next week to go out to bid. I'll be getting some pre-drawings beforehand, and we'll do another round of estimates to kind of check and see where we're at since our last one, so we can have a little bit better idea.
And that third one consists of what?
It's going to consist of the MEPs, the general trades.
MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing?
Yes. The general trades, demolition. I think that's it, right, Greg? Flooring we're doing later, right? And how about the site concrete? Is that the next one or later?
What do you call general trades? Can you be more
General
specific?
trades is drywall, casework, ceilings, lockers, and we may split some of that up after I take a look at the drawings.
Okay.
We may bid drywall separate or something, but
Where are those on your list? Is that a particular number?
general trades is 6A,
Oh, general trades.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Tricky.
Yeah, so they're mostly the drywall, ceiling, casework contractor.
Great. Any questions?
I'm a little happier than I was last.
Yeah, right.
I figured you would be. I was happier too. Look, so believe me, it's a crazy way people look at things. I wish it was a science.
Well, and your example's a great one.
One skylight
One skylight.
varies by $70,000. It's really amazing. So.
Okay.
That's all I have. So.
Excellent.
Did you have a question, Phil? No. Great, thanks. All right. Now we go to Craig White from Craig White. Wish. Craig from White, Georgia.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Dr. Sophie, and distinguished guests, thanks for having me here. Before we get into the drawings, I just wanted to share a couple of items of interest just to keep you abreast of things that are going on, because there's more than just drawings that we're involved in right now. This morning, actually early afternoon, I was out at the Regional Office of Education and sharing the drawings for the first bid release that you approved contracts for, and filling out all the paperwork and going through the conversations, and it looks like we'll have our building permit by the end of the week. Dr. Sophie, that's going to go directly to you. I will be getting a copy on that. One of the things that they did ask was for some confirmation from the board, Village of Trustees, in terms of their approval of the project and so forth. So we're getting that letter and kind of following up with the village on some additional paperwork and applications that we have to fill out to allow for construction to happen too. So we're going through that right now, and we do have the forms that we need, and it'll just be probably a day or so before we get that back to the village.
Is that what happens? We have to hang it on the front door?
We put it in the trailer.
Yeah, Tom will.
And in the window.
Yeah, but you need to make sure you have a copy back at your office.
Terry, we have to remember when it comes that we make a copy, and then the original has to go over to Nate so we can get it to the trailer.
Yeah, actually, we'll just take a copy and put it up.
Okay, reverse that.
Yeah. That 6-7 months in the trailer.
I'll plaster it all over. Just tell me what we need to do.
So the next item kind of falls under the ups and downs that we have in the course of construction and unpredictability of things. We are a stone's throw away from hopefully getting our acoustic report analysis from our acoustician. Unfortunately, there's some personal issues that our acoustician experienced, and so SMW, which is a good thing that we have a larger company that has a broad brush of resources to tap into. They're kind of realigning and reorganizing how they're approaching the project, and we should have the report soon. They were out here this afternoon taking the sound decibel levels at the property line for the existing chiller.
Did they get it to fire up?
They got it to fire up. We were lucky enough that it was warm enough. They unfortunately missed the window this weekend because of some personal issues that our acoustician was experiencing. So we're working through that, and I suppose if that's the worst thing that happens to us on this project, we're in good shape. So with that said, I'd like to share a few drawings with you, as Dr. Sophie mentioned. Last week we had the opportunity of sitting down with some of the core team members in our office. They were gracious enough to come to our office to take a look at some of the materials and finishes and the colors that we're proposing for the inside of the facility. Saved us a lot of heartache, and a lot of materials are heavy. We like to have full-size samples instead of just little squares and things. So we're just do a nice little setup in our office and have a great conversation. And we'll be able to show you how some of those materials are going to be installed and shown on the inside. But I thought we'd start off with this image on the outside, just to remind everybody of the bid package and the things that Tom has already bid out for the project. Really relates to the outside of the building envelope, so the masonry, the windows, doors, that kind of stuff. And this is just a quick image that we put together for the Fine Arts Edition. That's going to go on the north end of the building, northeast end of the building. The actually existing building is not white, but it's just done there so we can highlight the addition. We're not proposing to paint it white. But the brick, actually I was just out to the site before this meeting, before the sun went down. I took about 8 different samples of brick so that we can match the existing original part of the building. And we have almost an exact match. It's amazing. It doesn't happen too often in the shade and in the sun. So I know it's just a weird thing I get excited about. But, when something works out, it's nice for that to happen. So I'm not going to spend much time. Talking about the floor plan. It hasn't changed. Unless you want me to go through that.
They just need to see the pictures, some of the new pictures that came in this week.
You can carry the mic with you, if that's easier.
So this is just I don't know if you've seen this one. I thought I'd share it with you. This is sort of a bird's eye view. If you slice off the roof and you look down at the existing library, which is right here. Here's the stairs going to the upper level. This is your multi-purpose room. The main entrance is down here.
This is existing, right?
This is existing, and these are your science labs. So the floor plan and the changes that we're contemplating, something like that. So really kind of an interesting transition between what you had and what you're going to be getting. So it's kind of telling. And I think you'll see with the images that I'm going to share with you, the renderings and so forth. It is quite a difference in character and floor plan layout than you have right now. We always, as an architect, the experience I have now, I don't get as impressed as much as I used to when I was younger. You always try to make the project the next best one, and I've been sharing this around the office. And I gotta tell you, the buzz that this thing is creating in an office is really quite something. And so if architects are getting impressed, that's a good thing. But so that's kind of where we're at, and that was sort of the starting point for us to do some exploratory work in terms of the finishes, and certainly the furniture that's coming right down the pike. I'm going to get out of this for just a moment because what I want to do is start in a different part of the building. I want to take us over to the classroom wing, and this is a view looking in the classroom suite, the hallway.
Oh, the new suite?
So you guys didn't get to see this last time.
No.
We have classrooms on the right side and classrooms on the left side. And this is looking out to the exterior doors. And so what you're looking at and seeing right over here is the alternate bid skylight. If that goes through and you pass that, otherwise this will be pretty much just solid. But we'll have obviously lights and so forth. Glass that kind of allows you to see in and out of the classrooms. On one side, we have the same on the other side with some built-in bench seating. And then you'll have some tables. And this, actually, the hallway will act then as another instructional area. So, kind of fulfilling that idea and thought that we had a conversation about making all the square footage usable for instructional purposes. Really making your building more efficient than just having a hallway that divides 2 classrooms and a way to get from one classroom to the next.
Are the table and chairs that you were showing here, is that instead of the booth kind of seating that you had in other drawings?
We still have that.
You still do, just
We
in
do.
a different spot?
It's in a different location.
Okay.
This is actually in between all the classrooms.
Okay.
I can show you the floor plan if you want to go back there.
Okay.
The flooring that you see is contemplated to be the LVT vinyl tile. It's sort of like a planking system, so we're using 3 different kinds of wood colors or stains. We've done it before. There's just a different arrangement of patterns and colors, and it really provides a richness of texture and warmth that we're tending to do more and more in schools right now, but you don't typically see in schools that have more institutional character, and that goes to that flooring conversation that we had last time I was here. We were talking about
Makes a huge difference.
what you have right now, it sure does. VCT compared to this vinyl tile.
And you
So-
can guarantee the sunlight coming through like that?
My world is always sunny, man. So, the furniture plays a pretty prominent role here in the classrooms. That is not part of the contract or the allowance right now, but we are having conversation for these classrooms. So when you start, when you open up and move into these classrooms, is the thought, and we talked about using the same furniture you have right now, and then over time, buying furniture to equip these spaces. And
So we're gonna do this
started
and not have the furniture?
right now.
This
Correct.
piece, the library furniture is all built in.
This is just for the classrooms I'm talking about.
Then we should show drawings with no furniture.
Well, there's gonna be furniture in it. It's just
Yeah,
not
buy
that
it.
exact furniture.
furniture.
We've begun conversations with a furniture vendor and making introductions as far as that goes. There are opportunities of entering into agreements with different vendors to fix your pricing over a course of a certain period of time that will allow you to buy furniture at the rate that you have picked out and that you've agreed to. So there is potential there, and it's something I think that Mr. Khan is looking at and will be looking at in the very near future.
Actually, Jay and Nate and I were all at the meeting, and the furniture vendor, at least that will be helping us coordinate, was also at the meeting and present with us to see the furniture that was spread out in the building, so.
What's on the left? Oh, we're now gonna see it, never mind. You're gonna show a different.
On the left is the other two classrooms.
This is a
Yeah.
hallway right here.
Yeah,
Which
what
hallway
are
is
those?
This is
You go to the floor
What
plan.
direction is that going?
That is looking direct west.
Your new southwest wing.
Shame on me, I'm sorry. Let me, so it's like we're standing right here, looking out that way.
What's that new wing?
Okay?
No, it's looking west.
West.
That's north.
Looking west.
It's looking towards, what is
This
it?
is west, down this way. North is that way. Here's the main entrance. So we were standing right here, and I'm looking this way.
Good.
Make sense?
Yeah. Right. That's true.
And, Nate and I constantly are saying, it's so different that we are asking Craig, tell us again where we are in the building, because it's just very, very different than where it is now.
I'm really
So-
puzzled about doing this and not having that furniture in place.
Well, and maybe those are things that we need to talk to our PTO about in our alliance.
Yeah.
Because there's furniture, the whole media center will be furnished.
That's something that people might be willing to make donations for too.
So this is in the same area, standing on the west side of the hallway, looking to the east. So back here is the face of the existing classroom, outside of the classrooms that you have right now. And this is the left side that you were asking about,
Yeah.
Susan.
Yeah, I understand.
So more windows, but instead of taking the glass all the way down the floor, like we have on this side, we're putting a bench seating over here so kids could, kind of use that, pulling up a table or something and do some instructional activities. Just gives you another perspective on how this will look at if there's any way we can afford that skyline, man, that would be great.
It does make a difference.
But it's
amazing how
just
revealing-
another instructional space.
Amazing how revealing those 3D renderings are, right? To give you the insight.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the benefits of using the program that we do. This actually, so I have to, obviously I had to do this, right? We have somebody in our office that is very skilled and very much younger than me that knows how to do these things. It happens pretty quick because of the fact that we're using this modeling program. Basically, we're building the building in the computer three-dimensionally, like Tom is going to be building it
In real life.
on site. Yeah. And so that allows us to, usually takes a little bit longer. We're just expediting it a little bit, but it also helps us understand where there potentially might be conflicts to help. I'm not going to say there are not going to be any change orders because there's always change orders, but it helps us see where those conflicts are and avoid as many change orders as we possibly can, providing better quality documentation.
Your building on the program though is always meeting deadlines and on time, so we gotta make sure that
They
it's not
are.
that way the other
Tom
way too.
promised to do the same thing.
Yeah.
No.
So that's the classroom wing. Wanted to show you a couple images of how the library has actually developed, and as I was saying, listening to your presentation and those beautiful little magnets that you have, it was certainly by accident, but not anymore, that the tree motif that we're using for that back wall is a reflection of your Education Foundation insignia and symbol. So
Hey Nate, has Mallory seen that?
I don't think she's seen this
Wow.
particular image yet.
She'll probably start crying when she sees that.
So this is like you're standing at the far corner of the existing library. I took some pictures, and we're going to be doing some before and afters.
So we're looking toward the stairway?
We are looking. No,
Show
we're
them where the door is
I
in the
kinda
back,
missed
'cause
the
that
middle.
helped me.
yeah, the hallway.
Kind of missed the
Hang
middle.
on, I'm going to go. I'm going to go back
Big yellow.
here. We're going to do this real quick. So, if this is your existing library right now, there's a wall right here. We're standing in this corner right here, looking this way. Right?
Okay, no.
So you're standing like at the head of the big staircase.
Right at the head of the stair, looking this way. So,
Looks like buttons.
Architecture oriented drawings with north on top.
Should put a
we
compass on
That's a
it.
good idea, I like that
we
idea.
usually do, but I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. We had to fit it on the sheet, and so that's why we. So, just some of the things that I want to point out over here. Yes, the furniture is part of the contract. It falls under the allowance that Tom is carrying, sort of below the hard construction cost. All of this will be on wheels, so that it's easily movable. And I understand that perhaps it might be a space that you would use for board meetings, community gatherings, all school functions, as well as professional development. So a wide range of possibilities. Just because everything will be on wheels, we're exploring the options for the soft seating that's kind of scattered about. You see sort of these, and then this is a breakout room for some small group instruction. And in the back, up against this this wood paneled wall and in the profile of trees, which was inspired by our walk down to the bluff and seeing all the beautiful greenery that you have over there. This is where the help desk will be for Mallory and her staff on the far end. That one will not be mobile. You notice over here, you didn't get to see this before, but this is the frontispiece, thank you, that we've gone ahead and taken out of storage and wiped off the cobwebs, added some wood.
Tell your history museum buddies that it's in the library, front and center.
So there's some millwork there, and I'll explain that a little bit when I do our 360 view that we have over here. Dr. Sophie mentioned the carpeting and the colors. All that is something that we shared, and we've kind of got the palette worked out. It's relatively warm and neutral, but certainly inspired by what we've seen as far as character around the area. And
It's neutral with some accents.
some pops of color. You notice the lighting that we have over here, and again, that's, I think, kind of gives us I look at that and it's just a magical quality. We are struggling right now. One of the humps that we have to get over as a design team is make sure we have enough light in the space. And so there's going to be some series of other sort of ambient lights that are going to be up at the ceiling level that will give us the right foot candle readings that we need. And we're going through that exercise right now. It's just not shown here on the upper part of the ceiling. What else? Up front here is the booths. We'll be able to get a better picture of that when I turn you all around.
Where are the science labs? Are they behind the breakout rooms, the science labs?
Behind
Science
the
labs
classrooms.
are back here. So this is actually back behind this blue thing.
Yeah.
This is what's existing hallway right now. So you can see from the library, and there'll be a series of glass panels along those walls and benches, like we had. Like I was showing you in the other hallway, to allow visibility and transparency into the science labs, and from the science labs into the library, and also we'll get some residual natural light from those classrooms in this space. Not a lot, but enough to make it at least a little bit less, I hate to say claustrophobic in such a big volume space, but a little bit less closed in.
But those are, before they get to the library, there's, what do you call those, breakout rooms? There's little glass breakout rooms
Yeah.
along that wall there.
All this is
Yeah.
glass, so you really can see all the way through.
Yeah.
So it's going to be quite interesting. So you've seen this view before. It's kind of evolved a little bit more. This is at the bottom of the stairs, the dining area, looking up through the presentation stairs, and then back into the STEM area. We've been having a lot of conversation with the STEM man, the STEM.
STEM vendor.
The STEM vendor. So we've gotten him taken care of as far as the infrastructure goes. They're providing the infrastructure being data and power, and they're taking care of the equipment and the programming. But it's evolved. So this wall over here is on the opposite end of the other one. So they sort of act as bookends for the whole space and sort of contain it. We're treating it very similarly. What I didn't tell you about this wall on the other end is sort of a layered wood paneling, and in between the layers, in certain locations, we're going to have what they call strip lights. The paper thin, so it'll light up the trees just a little bit and kind of add to that magical quality. We detailed that out. One of the issues that we had to deal with and we struggled with a lot, and we were very comfortable with the resolution, got good response from the core team, was how we were treating the ceiling over here. This is really how we wanted to do it. We had those waves we were showing you before. Got a little complicated in terms of detailing. When you start complicating detailing, that means it's complicated in terms of affording. So we looked at other avenues, and the other thing that we had to kind of align our thinking with and address was these massive columns that you have over here. And so we picked up the shape of that, these little pods. And it acts as tree canopies.
So now the columns are have become integrated into the whole thing.
They are now integrated, I think, very comfortably.
Like we put them there on purpose.
Yes, you did. So we are going to, just for no other reason than maybe curiosity, have Tom and the contractors open up one of them just to see what's in there.
I want to be there for that.
There's a time capsule in there.
So one of the things, the exercise we have to go through the furniture in this area over here, and again, that is all imagined and contemplated as whole floor to be very flexible. So when you move around, this might be a nice place to have board meetings as well. You can see that it'll be populated, these stairs will be populated with different kinds of pillows. Again, we would help you go through that exercise, whether it's from IKEA or something, so you go do a little shopping. Or maybe a nice PTA or PTO fundraiser thing. Just to kind of soften up sort of the hard stairs. The other thing is we've been detailing and looking at the handrailing system, so this is really going to be a glass handrail system. And then up against it on the library side is the booths, Leanne, that you were asking about.
I asked about it, but I thought your answer was that we still had them in the instructional area, like in the hallway. This is it?
They're in a different place.
Yeah, and they actually have closure to them, so they're more like they're enclosed booths, is what they are. Like small group instruction, but they're kind of like booths. They're called huddle spaces. That's what we do.
Is there? I know we've talked about this before, but can you mention are we doing anything about sound deadening in this space, or do we need to? It just seems like you get a whole bunch of kids having lunch, and it's gonna radiate.
The clouds are going to help immensely for that.
Are they?
One of the things that we're going to have our acoustician look at is some of the things on the inside, and just kind of weigh an opinion on that. But we feel pretty good that we've got that taken care of here, and certainly with the carpet in the library, and maybe a potential of doing some things with sound panels, and I'll show you where those are. But we haven't really gotten to that point yet. That's a kind of a refinement that we're still working on.
But our lunch periods, how much time during the day does lunch take up? Will it take up?
3 periods. Period 4, 5, and 6. But keeping in mind that 4, 5, and 6 is the high traffic time of our library media center as it stands today.
You might microphone. Sorry.
So periods 4, 5, and 6 are when we have lunch periods now, and that's when the library media center is open to kids as well. It's a high traffic area, a great time for kids to either collaborate on something, work on something together. It's a space they want to be in. I can imagine it's going to be a space they want to be in even more. It'll be nice to be able to, particularly with sort of the 8th grade lunch periods, and I think also sometimes our 7th grade lunch, where as they finish up eating, they'll be able to just cruise up the stairs and into that area. in a well supervised, well sort of managed space. And so this is something that we're pretty excited about. The fact is the library media centers and the way in which they're being utilized now, it's just different than what we're accustomed to. It's not the quiet, everyone sitting there reading, no one talking. There's a lot of engagement with one another and engagement with the room itself. So sort of White's done a nice job developing a room to facilitate that.
So you're going to show the 360 in a minute.
Yeah,
That's my favorite.
Sure.
Craig, are you using any of the new LED lighting concepts?
All the lighting that we put in the additions, as well as wherever we're putting on inside the building, will be LED. Probably a warmer LED, but and LED is all dimmable, so we're good to go. Yep. So more technology available to me that I don't know how it works, but it's great when I could do it without much effort. Is this used through Google Chrome, and allows us to upload our model, and renders it, and then we download it, and then we're able to kind of spin around from one location in a 360 fashion. And so if we start in the library over here, not too different from the location that we had the still photograph or the still image, but this is looking directly at the back wall where the reception desk, where the help desk is, with a small group on one side, and then you can see the frontispiece on the left. And I wanted to spin over there, and I want to talk a little bit about this. We're still looking at the color of this wall and maybe some additional lighting over here, like wall sconces, just to kind of help that around. It's kind of a big wall. We're wrestling with that right now.
That's the gym wall, right?
Pardon me?
That's the gym
That's
wall.
your existing gym wall. But here's the furnace piece, and while it's not detailed out yet, what we're going to be doing here is putting glass shelving in here with some downlights, and it's thought to be hopefully a legacy space to honor your history as a district and maybe as a school, and then again maybe with some glass doors and closures, sort of like a display case, and that's going to be actually quite beautiful.
So where we're going to put our first place award for the design for this, right?
There you go. That's a good start.
We should maybe communicate. I don't know if you can take some snapshots of this or something that we can share with some of the people who have expressed concern for the frontispiece in the past. I think was it Janet Nelson who was on that?
I actually invited Janet and her to the groundbreaking too,
Okay.
so I think that we need to share the good news because it's important that we honor our.
I think that's a great place for it.
Yeah.
So this is looking back towards the presentation stairs, and you can see the glass handrail right over here. And then these are furniture pieces, so they won't be fixed. You'll be able to, if you wanted to, they're not going to be on wheels, but you could move them around if you want to be organized. But they're right under a soffit with some additional drop lights and so forth. We have found kind of doing variations of this kind of thing in a number of schools. This is wildly successful for kids. They just want to be there. So they go to not necessarily to eat, but to study, to socialize before, after, during school. It's a great opportunity, and it's certainly a great view as you kind of look down.
What's the thinking behind changing from carpeting to whatever the linoleum is?
It's to help actually define traffic flow in the space a little bit more. It just seemed to make a little bit more sense. Now we needed a harder surface for the STEM lab too, so that extends back into the STEM area over here. And then it takes you around past the science labs and into the classroom suite. Does it work?
Craig, on that legacy display area,
Yes.
you're talking about, that could be someplace that you could have different displays, different history.
Yep. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. It'll be adjustable glass shelves. You can take them out, you can put them in. You need more, just like at home if you have shelves that you can adjust and bookshelves. Really, it's up to you. It'll be flexible enough, and I think just a nice piece to highlight.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great place for different displays.
Yep,
Craig, you had one other 3D, right?
I do, and we'll go to that right now.
What's going to happen to all the class pictures. Is there some sort of like new digital update you can do to that? That's because
They line the walls now.
Nate,
yeah.
do we know the answer? Or should we postpone that till the next meeting?
Microphone, sorry.
I love that picture too.
We've begun thinking about that. There hasn't been a specific plan yet, so I think it's probably something we need to bring back to you to have a solid answer on or a recommendation for.
You're talking
It's
about
just
the wall of the
that
wall.
we have class photos
Down the hall.
down the hall. It's not every class. I think they didn't start taking those photographs until
The 80s, I thought.
late 80s, early 90s. But there are a fair number of them.
Maybe near the frontispiece on that heritage wall, make it something more than
You could digitize
There are a
it,
lot of
project
them. There are a lot of them. So yeah,
That's even better.
That's even better. We could
You
digitize
could
and
digitize
project
it and
it.
project it on a thing, and it just, I don't know. It could be almost like an art piece.
it's a neat idea.
I'm sure you'll find a fascinating way to manage that.
Not to get in the weeds, but it is something that sticks out
Yeah.
in the current space, and I think that you'll get a lot of questions if
agree.
it goes away.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. Thank you.
So this is standing at the top of the presentation stairs, looking down the dining area with the sort of classroom makerspace in the back over there. Some of the things that we didn't talk about before, this is really going to be a projection screen, or there's a placeholder there for that. It'll drop down from the ceiling. Place to show movies.
Oh, that's a screen?
There's a screen. Yeah.
Oh,
And
cool.
then adjacent to that, this window over here is really an opening, a visual window opening to the lobby.
That's the front
As
entrance.
you enter into the space. So really quite nice way to kind of provide additional transparency in the space. And then you notice, so the stairs just don't start, down at floor level. We've actually provided a bench to start things off, and that's done for a number of reasons. People don't fall down.
It's just the lawyers.
Yeah. So
No, that'll be me.
yeah. Just that was pretty transparent, wasn't it? But you need to know that's why that's there. I mean, we're thinking about those things. It's not just about making a space beautiful, but it's about making it safe and functional for the kids and the staff too. So
I'm wondering about the numbers of seating for the lunch period. So we have roughly 100 kids in each lunch period, it sounds like, right? If we have 3 lunch periods.
yes, that was what we had talked about.
And so where do they all sit?
Okay, so we have countertops over here, all of this seating over here, and then this is a counter that goes around there with additional seating in the back. I think that in conjunction with some of the stairs, we get 100.
Okay.
Yeah, probably more than 100, to be frank with you.
Yeah.
So we went through that count way back when we were
Yeah,
designing
we did
the
that
space.
quite a while ago.
And I'm sorry, I don't know the exact.
No,
number,
no,
but can get that
I
for you.
remember the discussion, but it just looking at it doesn't look sufficient. But I understand what you're saying about the stairs.
It's actually bigger, believe it or not, than your current.
Oh, yeah, I have no doubt.
So the last thing, as far as this view goes, this wall over here, and so there's conversation we're having in our office about the durability. You paint it, and, kids are sitting there, so they might nick it or hit it or whatever. We're looking at turning that into an instructional wall, an opportunity for an instructional wall. Maybe do some marker board paint, and they could, with the right markers, go ahead and just kind of use for controlled graffiti, as I think.
So like a whiteboard wall? The wall would be a whiteboard?
Yeah, there's a whiteboard
Nate
paint
has-
that we use.
Yeah, we have a lot of actual ideas for that, and there's announcements that are made, and we communicate with kids. It'd be a great place to just remind people of a club or meeting after school. There will certainly be times when kids might be writing there as well, but having that big wall to just sort of make colored notes on or reminders about something that we thought would be great, because it would be so central to the lower level dining area that they would be able to pick up and see it.
So this is just kind of looking behind us, then back towards the STEM lab area. And you notice the same type of vinyl tile flooring that plank systems that we have over here. We're going to be mixing and matching depending on where we're in the building. There'll be different percentages of the darker versus the lighter colors, and it's just the response to the amount of wood. For example, the presentation stairs that we have in certain areas, and it's a way of balancing out, making sure that one particular wood stain does not overpower the other. I think the other nice thing that we discovered while we were doing the interior development of this project, similar to the outside where we have about 5 or 6 different bricks that we were wrestling with and trying to mix and match, what we found is there are a number of different kinds of finishes inside the building. So it was, believe it or not, the pattern that we picked up for the flooring is really inspired by the fact that we have all these different wood finishes. And it just kind of worked with the aesthetic that we were thinking about and kind of developing during the entire process. So everything has a purpose and a reason, and it's just up to us to uncover it.
I love how the columns look like you put them there on purpose. That's pretty cool.
They frame out the space, don't they? So beautiful. So it's just kind of a weird thing. Lastly, in the back over here, we don't have it shown yet, but we're looking at that, making it a tackable wall. So that'd be something you can display announcements and serves as the backdrop for that entire STEM space. And the lockers are.
So that is looking through what is now the current cafeteria, right?
Yeah, right now you have a wall that's right here.
Yeah.
And that's where your prep kitchen is, then you have doors off to the side.
Yeah.
We're getting rid of all of that, and we're just blowing it all out and opening up the entire space. So making really an open kind of floor.
Wow.
I really love my job.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
So we're really happy. Now, we're rushing at this pretty hard. There's still some decisions for us to be made, for us to make. And we're meeting with the core team on
Actually,
Thursday.
we're switching those. Oh.
Or the steering committee. We're
No, I think we do have core this
meeting
week
with
and
somebody
steering
on
that. Yeah.
Thursday. And
We have
whoever
one
that
meeting
is,
on
we
one.
want to share with them, more refinement. And it's just a few colors here and there. And what's going to happen
14.
now is kind of
March 3rd. I'll invite you this.
and organizing those meetings. Tom and his team are going to slowly take over those as we get into construction, and that will be more of a supportive role to the gang at IHC as they really get into the nitty-gritty of this thing being built out. That being said, we have, like I said, a few decisions to make yet, and because of the tight time frame that we're doing all this in, Tom hasn't had the proper time to really kind of dig deep in and start tweaking his numbers. So that's what he's going to be doing over there as we put our drawings together and as we get ramped up for the rest of the bid. So there might be some adjustments that we have to make. We believe we're within the $1 per square foot that we have allotted in the budget. But like everything else, it's an iterative process, and if there are any significant changes that we need to make, certainly we would bring options to the core team and to all of you to make those decisions. But we feel pretty good about where we're at, especially after the last round of bids. We hope that trend continues, and we expect it to. But like Tom said,
It will continue.
It's beautiful.
It will continue.
Gene has declared it,
So, the groundbreaking on Monday, which wing are we breaking ground on? Is it the first one?
The fine arts one.
The
I
fine
believe.
arts one.
Right, Tom?
That's where you're setting up at, yes.
We're set.
That's where will we begin? I mean, you're going to begin work next week. Where are you beginning work?
We're beginning on other issues.
We're actually beginning in the gym.
Yeah.
We're going to begin in the gym and then go outside.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, for the ceremony. Yeah.
Right, and we'll be getting on the classroom addition portion, so it's kind of
That's
out of
where
the way.
you'll be working. I
Yeah.
guess that was more of my question.
But Tom, please ignore the formality. Everybody can start at 7. We're okay because the extra 2 hours might help. So
You never know.
just go ahead and get started.
I'll start.
So when are you going to coach me on groundbreaking, by the way? Like what?
what you say.
Tomorrow.
You just know that someone else's comments.
2 minutes. Everybody's got 2 minutes. You've got 2. Nate's got 2.
Oh, not in the contract? All right.
Thank you.
Are we all good? Are there any questions for these guys? Thank you.
I
Oh,
don't.
wait. Yep.
I don't know if this is a question for them or for school district. So, you implied that there's some furniture included in like the library
In
portion?
some parts, but not others, yes.
All right. What is our current cycle of school furniture?
That would be a Jay question. Jay?
43rd year.
We don't have a formal developed yet, but that's gonna go in our 20-year plan when this is all over.
Okay. Do school districts lease furniture?
I'm not aware of any, are you?
I mean, I know that occurs. I just don't know if that happens in public schools. I don't know. It's just something to think about. I mean,
We also have to watch, there's a state purchasing program, and sometimes we can get better deals if we go through the state purchasing. So that's why when we discuss furniture, Jay is there because he's going to be in charge of ordering all the furniture based upon our discussions.
like I assume in the elementary school they put new furniture in when that was opened, right?
In some areas, but not in all.
But none of that's been replaced. And
Not in all areas.
that building? Oh wait, it opened. Or opened. Oh no.
I just think it's something to think about for this building.
I do too.
I mean, there's kind of a look bad.
Yeah.
If I may, there is good furniture and there
There's no bad furniture.
Once the conversation along, there's good furniture and there's a lot of bad
Right,
furniture
right.
out there. You get the right stuff, and it'll last a long time. And
Yeah.
I think more than pay for itself if you get into some kind of leasing agreement. I've never heard of that before, to be frank with you. But our hope is that, and our intention is that working with the district and the vendor, that we would introduce you to quality pieces of equipment and furniture.
All I will say on this is, oh my God, it must be warm. There's a flag.
Wow. What about me?
It's kind of like a comatose fly. I don't know where it went, but anyway. No, I mean, just going back, doing this building, when people walk through it, it kind of goes back to the doors. I mean, you don't want it to look like a patchwork quilt when it's done, and I think the same extends to furniture. And I would just say that hopefully we can look at all that, because as we're making decisions on this alternate stuff, I would like to kind of take all the rest of that into account as we make those financial decisions, because I would probably put furniture and doors and whatnot over some of this other stuff that's actually on the list. So I don't know how long it would take to put some of that information together to include.
The only other thing, though, that I would share is that the steering committee who have been involved from the beginning, we didn't include that in their discussion. So we probably need to go back to the steering committee. I don't know if we're far enough along yet. I think
As an alternate, we would have to go back to the steering.
No, because we did not talk about furniture.
Right.
I think it was probably assumed though.
Actually, we talked about it at several meetings, that which rooms were going to have it and which rooms weren't.
All I'm saying is I wouldn't want to make decisions at this level on alternates, and then we get into the building, and it's obvious to us and the public that this doesn't look as good as it should, and we would have made maybe some different decisions and prioritized differently had we had that information.
So what I hear is being said is, I think as we work with the furniture person, we're going to need to get quotes.
Yeah.
Because we haven't.
We'll definitely price it out. I think when we discussed it at some of the meetings, we also, furniture is something that you can phase in, that you can buy a little bit at a time. Whereas many of
That's
these
what
things,
he doesn't want to do, though.
But many of these things, you do it when you are under construction, or you don't do it ever. Because
Right.
it's a big-
Because it sounds like you don't really budget for that.
Well, no, we do.
There isn't really a plan.
We have a capital budget every year, and you can spend it on, you save it for big ticket items like boilers, but you also spend it replacing trucks and replacing, furniture is a priority. When I say we don't have a formal replacement plan, we don't have a formal replacement plan, but we replace things as we need to.
Right.
So it's not that those not money in the budget to do that. We just have to be thoughtful about it.
Anyway, I just put that forward as something I think we should include in our decision making.
And we're gonna need the prices anyway, because that's something especially as this PTO event comes about, that's gonna be something I think parents are gonna feel strongly about too.
Right. Okay.
So,
Thanks.
Duly noted.
thank
Anybody
you
else?
very
Any
much.
comments? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So our principals need to go home and go to sleep, I've been told. Thanks for coming, guys. So now we're going to move on to item 8B, which is our bond refunding opportunity, and we have
Good night.
Ms. Tammy
Thanks.
Beckworth-Shalmo from PMA. She's going to walk us through some options here, scenarios.
Here's mine. Okay. Maybe twice as start.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. It's fun to hear you talk about and look at plans for the middle school after doing your financing last summer. So I'm here tonight on a related but different topic. As the district's financial advisor, we have all of our clients' bond issues in a database and constantly monitor what's going on in the municipal bond market and watch for opportunities for our clients to potentially refund or refinance existing debt. And so that's really why I'm here tonight, is to talk to you about a potential opportunity, give you some background and look at some numbers and see if this is something that you might like to pursue. So if you go to slide 2, I know it's a lot easier to see in your books, but this is a snapshot of the district's existing debt service payments on all of its bonds. And of course, we've incorporated the 2015 bonds from the project that you're working on right now. And we have actual numbers for EAV, or equalized assessed valuation, through levy year 2015, which are reflected on that third column from the right, and projections going forward. So the payments that you have on file with the Lake County Clerk right now are fixed unless you as a board do something to change those payments. And what changes from year to year, again, is your EAV, and that ultimately influences what the tax rate is for bond and interest payments in the district. And I've shaded in sort of a lime green color, if you will. Those are the debt service payments on your Series 2008 bonds that are currently in place again with the county clerk, and what we're looking at potentially refunding or refinancing. And those, I use those terms like coterminously. The typical phrase used in the municipal bond world is refunding versus refinancing. So I want to give you, before we start looking at numbers, so I did want to spend a minute, and this is the slide that's new compared to the version that you got the other day, a little bit of history on your 2008 bonds. We were not involved in your 2008 bonds or your 2010 restructuring or your 2013 restructuring, but we spent some time today trying to go back and put the puzzle together and see what the original plan of finance was and what the board has done over the last few years to restructure some of those payments. So those of you who were on the board at the time in 2008 recall that it was about a $24 million bond issue from the referendum. And if you look on the left side, we have levy year and fiscal year listed, and you can see shaded completely in yellow what those original 2008 debt service payments were.
So that was the elementary school construction.
Right, correct, right. And the board at that time structured the payments over the life of the bonds. They would increase each year. So in the first year, you had a levy of about $827,000, and in the final year, levy year 26, it would have been about $3.1 million. In 2010, again, going back and putting the puzzle together, the district refunded some of its bonds at that time, and you can see there's a column that says less Series 2008 debt service refunded by 2010 bonds. So the district took the debt service payments listed in those years in the red font and pushed payments out longer. So you had interest payments starting about $118,000 in levy year 2009 for about 19 years, and then a final maturity all the way out in levy year 2027 of about $2.9 million. So the district, as I looked at this, and I'm sure those of you who were on the board at the time would ratify this, you can see the number shaded kind of in the orange column where it says total debt service after 2010 financing. the board took the approach it wanted to level out the payments in those years at about $1.2 million per year, and again pushed the payment out into the future for further consideration again in 2013. So in 2010 then, the district decided, in 2013, the district decided to restructure some more bonds, and you can see again the payments that are in red font, those numbers from the 2008 piece, and there was also a 2010 piece that was actually refunded or restructured with the 2013 transaction. And again, those of you who were on the board at that time may recall that not only was there that restructuring that you issued new bonds to restructure, but you also contributed about just under $5.8 million of fund balance to do that. And at the end of the day, you achieved some present value savings by doing that. But you resulted in the column over on the right-hand side where you can see I shaded in the green section of that column. The net effect of doing that was to provide a more stable debt structure for the remaining years on that bond issue. And so again, the original principal amount on those 2008 bonds was over $24 million, and with the restructurings that you did in 2010 and 2013, it added up to a little bit more than $8 million of the principal, the original principal of the $24 million. So you now have a little bit more than $16 million of principal remaining on those 2008 bonds. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight, is what can you do, if anything, potentially to refund those bonds. Some of you were on the board at that time. Was there anything else you wanted?
Actually, we didn't have any of the board members on it.
Well,
okay.
clear, we were not in 08.
Yeah, in 2000.
Not in 08, gotcha, but you were in
2013.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good overview.
You were on it.
Okay, great.
11. Okay.
So if you go to slide 4, we've listed now, these are just the principal payments on the bonds that are outstanding for the district. So we have all 4 series of bonds listed here. And a couple things I want to highlight first are the fact that the maturities that are callable are boxed in. So the 2008 ones, which are also shaded in yellow because those are the ones we'll talk about tonight, but you can see there's one maturity in 2010 from the 2010 transaction, and then several maturities from your 2015 transaction. So what does that mean? It means that when you as a board sold those bonds in those series, you told investors you were preserving the opportunity down the road to call them in and reissue new bonds at potentially lower rates, or to restructure like you did back in 2010 or 2013. And so when those investors bought your bonds, they knew there was the possibility you might call the bonds in at some point. You'll see the 2013 bonds, none of those are callable, but given how short they are, that's not uncommon. Typically, when you do a bond issue, those that have maturities 10 years and beyond are typically callable at no additional cost to you. It's sort of standard in the industry. So it's not unusual to see those 2013 bonds would not be callable since they're so short, relatively speaking. At the bottom of the page, you'll see 2 lines, one that says purpose and one that says callable. They're both important for a couple different reasons. The purpose is important because the IRS has rules about when and how frequently, really, you can refund existing debt on a tax-exempt basis, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. The callable dates for the 3 series of bonds that are outstanding are also important, because when you think about refunding debt that's outstanding, you need to think about 2 things. Are rates lower today than when you originally sold those 2008 bonds? And the answer to that is yes. But how far away from the call date are you? Usually the further away from the call date, it's more expensive to fund an escrow. The mechanics of a refunding are you sell new bonds and you use the proceeds from that sale to establish an escrow account. The proceeds from that sale are put in that escrow, and they earn interest in that account until the call date. So the further away you are from the call date, the more dollars you need to fund the escrow. So your 2015 bonds, not only did you sell at relatively low rates, but you're pretty far away from that call date. So I wouldn't anticipate being able to do any refunding on those bonds for quite some time. But 2008 is a different story. You are only a couple years away from that call date, and we'll talk about that more as we look at some numbers. So, as I talked about, the IRS has rules about refunding when you've sold those bonds originally on a tax-exempt basis. The first that we're talking about tonight is an advanced refunding, and that means you sold bonds in 2008 and the portion that you've not restructured or refunded yet, the IRS says you're welcome to refund those. You can do it any time before the call date, but you only get one bite at the apple to do it. So if you refund these now in 2016, any portion of them, you cannot refund them again on a tax-exempt basis until it becomes eligible for what's called a current refunding, which is within 90 days of the new call date on the refunding bonds. So you do want to think about what are our future plans. Is there any reason we might want to preserve the callable bonds or any portion thereof to have flexibility down the road? But then there's a trade-off.
You're taking a risk on the rates.
Exactly, which is what we're going to look at a little bit more.
Okay.
Right, that's exactly correct. And the industry looks at, well, when does it make sense for a school district, a board of education, to consider refunding bonds? And the general rule of thumb in the industry is that you can achieve present value savings, net the cost of issuance, that's at least 3% of the principal amount of bonds that you're refunding, then you should absolutely have a conversation about it and see what you think. And so again, we'll show some numbers in a minute and see that you're above that 3% threshold. So some more details on those 2008 bonds. We've talked about some of these, but you have about 14.5 million of the slightly more than 16 million that are callable in 2018. The average rate on those callable bonds, by the way, is about 4.8%, and so that'll be relevant as we look at where we think you might price refunding bonds today. And because those bonds were issued, again, for building purposes from that referendum, 100% of the 14.5 million are eligible for an advanced refunding. This is a snapshot of interest rates from a tax-exempt perspective. I know when we were looking at selling your bonds last year, we probably looked at this chart at least a couple times. This is the MMD AAA bond index, or that municipal market data index. So whether you're a school district in Lake County or a different type of governmental issuer any across the country, your bonds are going to sell relative to this chart. And you can see different points on the yield curve where the market has been. And you, from a historical perspective, again, your bonds last year were priced at a very, very good time. But what's interesting is what's transpired even since you sold your bonds. We saw rates kind of creeping up in sort of the middle to latter part of last year, and everybody was anticipating the Fed. When was the Fed going to raise those short-term rates? And the municipal market was waiting sort of with bated breath to say, okay, when's this going to happen? When's the Fed finally going to take action? And everybody thought that when they did, rates would go up to some degree. So the Fed finally met and raised the rates in December, and rates in the municipal bond market started going down. And there are a couple different reasons for that. One is many believe that because there had been so much talk for so long about raising rates by the Fed, that the municipal market had sort of built that in already. And we've just had some topsy-turvy things going on in the economy, oil prices, China, just global pressures on the economy, and what our stock market's done that has the opposite effect on the municipal bond market. So rates have been coming down for the last few months. In the last week or so, we've seen them correct a little bit, come up by about 10 to 15 basis points. But that's just some correction in the market that we're going to continue to see. But again, you can tell, I think, sort of from a big picture view, from a relative perspective, that rates are not quite at the bottom of where they've been over the last 40 years, but they're pretty darn close. So from a timing perspective, it's a really strong market tone. There's something else I want to talk to you about called bank qualification. Because this can also influence the rate that you as a school district get in the market for your bonds. So there's a law that enables you as a school district of tax-exempt debt to issue bank qualified bonds. And that means that if you issue up to $10 million of tax-exempt debt in a calendar year, they can be deemed bank qualified or BQ. The federal government's trying to incentivize banks to buy local school district bonds, for example, and they give them federal tax breaks to do that. Those tax breaks are passed along to you by way of a lower interest rate if you sell bonds with BQ status than if they're not BQ. And so what this chart's looking at is at different points along the yield curve over 20 years, What is the benefit of selling bonds up to 10 million in any calendar year, BQ versus non-BQ? So the blue line on the top are non-BQ rates for a AA credit in Illinois, and the green line is BQ. You can see there's not a heck of a lot of benefit. The lines are really on top of each other for about 5 or 6 years, and then it starts to widen the further you go out on the yield curve. And the reason this is important is because, again, you have about 14.5 million of bonds that are callable. So we stepped back and said we'll run numbers to look at refunding all of the bonds now. But we also want to look at carving it up into a couple pieces and maybe doing a BQ piece in 2016 or another BQ piece in 2017. And what's the benefit of doing that, knowing we still have interest rate risk? By not refunding all of it, we leave some out there. So we've run some numbers that I'll share with you momentarily to try to help you see what the benefit might be of doing a BQ approach. And you, by the way, get new BQ ability every January 1st. You get it back in the calendar.
So you said up to $10 million, and
right.
we're talking about 14 and change, right?
Right. That's right.
That's why. Okay.
Yep.
That's why you would piece it out over time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, first set of numbers I'd like to show you is a non-bank qualified advance refunding of all of the 2008 bonds in 2016 in the next couple of months. So, first thing I want to mention is in all these scenarios, we are not extending the average life of the bonds that are outstanding now. We're not extending anything, we're not shortening, we're keeping the same payment schedule that you have. So in this case, you can see on the left side the dates you have for each of your outstanding maturities on the 2008 bonds. And you kind of zero in a couple different things here. One, on the right-hand side, there's a savings column. That totals about 1.3 million. Okay, so that means the savings listed in each year and in total, that's what, if you refunded the bonds today, you issue new bonds at lower rates with lower tax levies, get filed with the county clerk, and the old payments from those 2008 bonds that are still there go away. They're deleted. We replace them with new payments that would result in lower payments by each amount listed here by year. That's what you'd actually pass along to the taxpayer in terms of lower payments for taxes. We always do this calculation, though, on a present value basis.
Can I just ask a very nuts and bolts question?
Sure.
So just so I understand, and anybody paying attention to this understands, on that last column, for example, in 2017, under this scenario, we would be spending $42,568 less than we current. Our payment would be $42,000 less.
Right.
And so on, accumulating to $1.3 million over the term.
Yes.
Term.
That's right. Yep. And when we take the present value of that 1.3 million, we get the second line from the bottom. It's just under 1.2 million. And that present value calculation I talked about earlier needed to be at least 3% to make sense for you to look at it. You can see we're just under 8%. And again, that's net the costs of issuance for the transaction as well. So that's in and of itself is an attractive percentage.
I take it that even though the first 10 million would be BQ, if you go over that 10 million, then it's all in BQ?
Correct.
In BQ.
Correct. And that's what this analysis is.
Okay.
Right. We're saying we're issuing all the bonds this year. And by the way, we get that almost 8% by taking the 1.159 million and I divide it by, I'll do the clicker here, like 14.5 million of principal. That's how I get the 8%. Okay? So as I said, in and of itself, that seems like an attractive number, and it is, but we need to think about this concept of negative arbitrage. The IRS has strict rules about that, and it comes into play more on the new money side when Jay's investing your bond proceeds for your project. If we were 15, 20 years ago and you'd sold your bonds for the middle school and you could earn a rate higher than the rate you're paying on those bonds, that's positive arbitrage. That's a good thing. This side, we have to watch negative arbitrage. So when you do a refunding on a tax-exempt basis, there are a couple calculations the IRS says we have to make, and one of them is the arbitrage yield. And that means that's the maximum rate that you can earn in the escrow that's set up to refund the bonds, and that's listed down here, just over 1.9%. Okay? Now, when you do a refunding on a tax-exempt basis, there are also rules about what you can invest in the escrow. And the most common form are these state and local government securities, or slugs as they're called for short, which are made available every single day by the U.S. Treasury. The maximum rate you can get in slugs right now is here, about 65 basis points, I believe. So the difference between those two rates is called negative arbitrage. We can't get the allowable rate in the escrow, so we have negative arbitrage. And that's quantified here at about $440,000. So another way to think of that is if we didn't have negative arbitrage, we could put the $440,000 that's left on the table, so to speak, back here, and it would be added to this number here. So it's already factored in, but because we've got this 2-year period before we get to the call date, and we need to invest the dollars, that's sort of costing out what that negative arbitrage is. So if we didn't have negative arbitrage, you'd have more savings here. Okay? Everybody follow that so far? Okay. So we want to be mindful of what the savings is. It's 8%, but we have $440,000 of negative arbitrage on a bank qualified basis if we do the refunding today. So
Can you
let's
summarize this when you compare it to the other alternative?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thanks for bearing with me. I know there's a few options, but I just want to make sure you understand all the different variables.
You're doing terrific, yeah.
Okay.
I'm explaining.
All right. So here is now, for comparative purposes, what if we waited and did the refunding in 2018, really close to the call date, under the assumption that interest rates stay the same between now and then? And by the way, what is the break-even point between doing that, by doing it now versus waiting? I'm refunding all of the bonds. So here's your answer. If rates stay the same, now we have savings of almost $2.2 million. On a present value basis, it's just under $2 million. And now, on a percentage basis, it's over 13%. Again, that's if rates stay the same between now and the fall, basically, of 2018.
But are you also saying then that we can risk a rate increase or take it of up to the difference between 13 and 8? In other words, if the rates go up 2 points, we're still going to win because we would have.
You're zeroing in on what's that interest rate sensitivity, what's the rate even, and I'll tell you that in a second. So that's a great question.
Okay.
I did want to just show you on slide 14, as I mentioned, we have a more negative arbitrage when we're further away from the call date, and here we're pretty darn close. Now you can see our negative arbitrage is down to about $50,000, much smaller. It'll never be perfectly zero, but it's
And tell me why that is again. Just go through that for me one more time.
Sure. So to fund the escrow, I need bond proceeds,
Right, I got that.
And the further away I am from the call date, and the IRS restricts what I can invest
For
in that
tax
escrow.
reasons, huh?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. So I need more dollars today to fund the escrow than I'm going to need 2 years from now.
Okay.
Okay. It's not as efficient today as it will be 2 years.
Right, I
from
got you.
now, right? Okay. Here's the answer to, I think, your question. What's the break-even point? So if rates here go up by more than 99 basis points between now and the fall of 2018, you'd be better off refunding all of these bonds on a non-bank qualified basis in the spring of 2016.
So 1 point.
100 basis points, right?
Which would put it at what, going back to the chart of where we've been, when was it last that high?
Well, that's not really the question because it can't go much lower.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's true.
There it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Like where is that?
We often, we
Looking
sometimes
at the
put a
orange line?
I'm
Right?
sorry?
Are we looking at the orange line or the green line?
You should focus more on the yellow and the green.
Yellow and
lines.
green, okay.
I had a actually very interesting conversation today with my advisor regarding laddering bonds to preserve a situation where we know rates are probably going to go up. So the question really is, what do you think? I mean, are they? I mean, you know, in my personal situation, laddering bonds puts me in a less risky position because I'm protecting my basis, but the yield potentially is lower than I might get if I don't. So I'm curious to know what your feel. Or are you going to express that to us as well?
I will. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. I agree with you that the likelihood of rates going down is much smaller than the risk that rates will go up.
Right.
Absolutely. And we sometimes have a histogram. We look at at rates. Like if I pick the 10-year rate over the last 25 years, it's been lower than where it is today. 1% of the time, 2% of the time.
Right.
Kind of to your point.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we know that if we're going to wait 2 years, that break-even point's about 100 basis points. But again, we talked about this BQ benefit. So we wanted to look at breaking this into a couple pieces. Maybe you as a board say, we like the idea of refunding some of these bonds, maybe not all of them. If we want to lock in some savings today, we're willing to wait and see what happens on some of those callable maturities. So this is looking at a bank qualified advance refunding of just about $9 million of the total principal in the spring of 2016. So now, for that amount, we have about just under $1.2 million under current market conditions of total savings. Present value down here is about $1 million, and on a PV basis, it's about 11%.
Does that take into, you mentioned earlier the BQ bonds have a tax advantage.
They have a lower rate.
That come back to benefit the district?
Yes.
And so forth. Is
That's
that
exactly.
included in your calculation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. You do still have some negative arbitrage, which is listed here. We're going to have some, no matter what scenario that we look at, just given how far away we are from the call date, but it's about $290,000. So again, if we didn't have it, we could add it back to the savings on this page.
John already asked this question, but what I'm doing is I keep going back and forth to remind myself of the rates from the previous scenarios. Are you going to line these all up at the end and
Yeah.
show? Okay.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. So again, this is 2016 BQ advance refunding.
On page 20 now. Or you're still on page 18?
I'm almost, yep, now we'll go to 20. This is, what if we, now we've done the 2016 piece. This is saying, let's refund the balance of the callable bonds in 2017. It's still considered advance refunding even in 2017 because the call date's not until the latter part of 2018. So if rates stay the same on the balance that's left, now we have total savings of about $300,000. Here it is, present value, not much different. And we have PV savings here percentage about 5.1%. Okay? And our negative arbitrage is listed here. Okay?
So this, can I just get clarification?
Sure.
We can only refund 10 million bank qualified in a year.
Up to 10 million,
So the
yes.
balance is, I'm wondering what that total number is.
It should, between the two, it should be the 14.55 million
Right.
between the two, the 2016 and the 2017.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So, the second piece of this analysis, as I said, the numbers I just showed you are looking at doing the balance of the refunding on a BQ basis in 2017. What if we said, well, let's wait till 2018 on that balance, and then it could be a current refunding and we minimize our negative arbitrage. I'm going to go, this is sort of a summary page, I'm going to go to the numbers because that's what you've been seeing tonight in this format. If rates stay the same on slide 23, now our total savings to refund the balance of about 5.6 million is 361,000 total savings, 347,000 on a PV basis, or about 6.2%. So it moves the needle a little bit on the savings, but there obviously is a difference. So the break-even point between doing a BQ refunding that balance, the roughly 5.6 million it was, April 2017 versus April 2018 is only about 40 basis points on that piece. Okay, now I know this is going to be a lot easier to see in your book than on the screen. So this is, I think, maybe part of the summary page that you were hoping for. So this part is looking at, again, the non-bank qualified analysis we looked at in the beginning. So NBQ refunding in 16 versus NBQ refunding in 18. And obviously we're going to have more savings if rates don't change, waiting till 2018, if you want to refund all of the bonds versus doing it now. And again, our break-even point is about 100 basis points. This middle section looks at the bank qualified approach in 2016 and 2017. And again, if rates stay the same, here's where we land over here in terms of total savings. NPV savings and the percentage. This is the aggregate of those two analyses, okay? And you can see that negative arbitrage, by the way, is listed as well at the bottom in each scenario. And that's compared against a 2016 and 2018 analysis for BQ. Okay, so if rates stay the same, obviously the best approach would be, well, if you have a crystal ball, as you talked about earlier with hedging, to wait till 2018. But if the board likes the idea of capturing some savings, maybe taking pause, and let's see where rates are in the fall of 2016. We either want to refund the balance of those 2008 bonds with a BQ refunding in early part of 2017. You can do that. Or you can just hold on for a little while and see where you are in 2018. That's sort of the beauty, too, of coming up with a BQ approach that lets you kind of do it a couple steps at a time.
Can you help me in a language I understand?
Sorry.
You've done a great job. I mean, this is really hard stuff to wrap your head around. I'm having a hard time with the break-even considerations.
Okay.
I understand what basis points are.
Sure.
Tell me how to think about how to consider the break-even numbers you're showing here in our decision-making process.
Okay. If you felt like we want to refund all of the bonds, that's going to do this once, take one bite of the apple. If you are thinking of doing it in 2016 or 2018, what this one is saying here is if rates go up by more than 99 basis points between now and the fall of 2018, you're better off refunding all the bonds now because you'll have less savings.
So
If the rates go up a point,
yeah,
if we think they're going to go up a point,
do it now.
do it now.
Yeah.
If we think the rates are not going to go up or only go up 0.39 or 39 basis points.
This is a little different. This is the BQ approach. So this is saying if we go BQ and we have the balance about the 5.6 million then that we could still refund after 2016. This is saying if you could consider first doing it, the earliest you could do it is in January of 2017. Close on that transaction in January of 17. Or you could wait in this analysis to do it in the fall of 2018 when we get really close to that call date. What that's saying is if rates go up by more than 39 basis points between January of 17 and the fall of 2018, you'd be better off doing that remaining 5.6 million refunding in January of 2017.
But there's a big difference if you just look at the present value savings. The 1.9 million, if we refunded 2018, there's a big difference between that and the 1.2 million if we decide to do it in two pieces.
Yes.
And you say that saving, the difference, that $700,000 difference is eaten up if the rates, because of your break even, if the rates go up 39 basis points.
Well, the 39 basis points is only on 5.6 million that you don't refund in 2016.
Okay. So let's just look at absolute dollars for a minute then. I mean, in absolute dollar terms, I'm looking at this as a savings of $700,000 if I do it right now. And what risk am I taking with respect to interest rates?
That they don't go down more.
That they don't go down more than how much? No, that they don't go up. They're not going to go down.
Right. So you're
they don't go
looking
up.
at the the NBQ versus the BQ.
Right,
That's really what you want
Right,
to get at.
right.
You know, that scenario is probably it's less than 99 basis points, but it may not be too much less than 80 or 85 basis points.
Isn't
It's
a
still pretty significant.
bird hand worth whatever that expression is? I mean,
Yeah.
1.9 million to get to the bush.
Something like that.
It's, yeah.
1.9 is
Yeah,
gonna
wait.
wait until 2018,
Yeah, wait till
right?
2018.
And
Yeah.
rates stay the same.
Yeah, and rates stay the same.
John, by
That's a lot of
By refinancing only $9 million of in the non-BQ, you're
Yeah.
getting 90% of the savings you'd get by refunding all of them today on the BQ basis. So you can,
Oh,
on
yeah,
the,
right.
on the BQ basis,
Right.
you can refund less than $10 million of your bonds and get almost all of the savings that you get
Yeah.
on a non-BQ basis by refunding them all. and then still have that $5 million left over to wait and refund at a later date for additional savings. I think looking at the 2.1, I don't know that that's, you're not really giving that up, because I think you would agree the likelihood of rates being where they are today in a year, we don't know, but
Likelihood is,
the likelihood
Very
is,
low.
that's not a real number
Right.
you're giving
Right.
up. It's somewhere in the
Right.
middle.
Right.
Because if rates go up between 0 and 99 basis points.
Which one do you like, Jay?
Well, using the bird in the hand theory, I would probably do the first 9 million today.
Yeah.
And then wait and see, lock in a sure $1 million of savings.
Yeah.
And then see what the market brings for the remaining $5 or $6 million.
Exactly what it seems like.
okay, but in that case, I'm sorry. Just let me follow my thought there. If you do that, in that case, what are you betting on with respect to interest rates? You're betting on the fact that they don't go up more than how much opposed to doing it now. I mean, you with me?
Yes.
Did I state that
On the
carefully?
right, on the
Yeah,
balance.
I mean, what I want to know is, if I do it all now, I'm going to end up with a certain amount of savings. If I wait and do 9 million now and 5 million later, how much do interest rates go up to wipe out whatever savings I would have had I done it all now?
I understand, right.
Hey,
Like 0.5%.
I mean,
Yeah.
because that's the bet you're making. The bet you're making is that I will wait to do the other 5 million. If interest rates don't go up, that's a good bet,
Right.
right? If interest rates go up a little bit, it may be a good bet. If interest rates go up a point, it's probably not a very good bet.
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking is, how much is that?
Right. And it's less than 99, but
It's less than
it's,
99. See,
I think it's more like 80 to 85 basis
Oh,
points.
really?
It's not, there's still some significant,
Because the second half is still on
Right.
a bank qualified basis, so you're
Right.
getting a break there.
So you're
Right, I know
nice.
that, but you're still taking the interest rate risk and
Oh, yeah.
Smaller
By
chunk.
waiting
on a smaller
goes-
chunk, right? Yeah,
So,
okay.
so if we were waiting for doing that center slide, we're betting basically that the interest rate will not go up more than that 85 to 99 basis points.
On that $5 million.
On the-
on the,
Right.
right.
Right, that's it.
Which I don't follow that very closely, but that seems like kind of a long shot to me.
Long shot that the interest rates will not go up that much?
It
That's
seems like
fair.
they would go up that much.
Yeah, it's hard.
Like 20.
Right.
It's anybody's
There's
guess,
factors
but
at play right
people
now.
thought 5 years ago we were going to be in a raging
You
inflation.
could actually, it can't close until January 17. You could actually sell the bonds in December of 16. So you're talking about, if you did a refunding, whether a BQ piece this year in April, you're talking about 8 months of interest rate risk, really.
Well, that's why I went back to this chart to see how volatile it had been, right? I know past performance doesn't predict performance, right? But, it does seem like it could go up a point. But
Yes.
It's hard to, I spent 2 hours with my advisor today talking about this very thing and how much we should ladder and whether we're going to protect it or not. It's just a guess. I mean, the fact that municipal bonds have done so well in the first is stunning.
It is.
Really, I mean, no one expected that. And you look at intermediate term bonds, I don't know if you've looked at that, the first 2 months, they're up like 8%. The market's down 10. That's stunning. But no one would have predicted that, so it's kind of hard to predict that stuff,
Go ahead.
my question is, why wouldn't we go all the way up to 10 million now? So under the theory that Jay, I think, was saying, go BQ now, and you have it proposed at 9 million, why wouldn't you go to 9.9?
There are some more rules with the IRS that we have to contend
I
with,
see.
and that it has to do with cost of issuance and how the bonds then are priced and how they may trade in the secondary market. Because if you're not mindful of that $10 million absolute limit, it could push you to like 10.1 or 10.2. So we have to be careful and make sure there are no issues there.
Okay.
And we also, when we're doing a BQ approach, we're picking the maturities where we think we can get the best bang for the buck. So we have to be strategic about that, and it may just mean we don't pick, we pick 4 and 5 years of maturities, but we don't pick the last 3 or vice versa for some reason. So it may not be perfectly to that as high as we can go.
What rates would these go for in the open market, roughly?
Sure. So if you want to look at, let's look at the BQ. The right one? Yep. So in the current market, we estimate the all-in cost to the district would be just under 2.5% for these bonds. And so that's compared against 17. That's compared against, remember, the average rate on those callable bonds now is what, was 4.8%?
Yeah.
So over 200 basis points lower. And the general rule of thumb is you need to be at least 100 basis points lower.
Well, from my perspective, there's absolutely no question we should do this. The question really is, and you're recommending the $9 million now and then waiting and taking the wait and see. And you're the experts. I mean, you know what's going on better than any of us, all of us combined.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Well, I get you based that on what you know about where rates are going over the next 2 years.
I can't say that because I certainly don't know. I mean, we look at the same charts as you've seen tonight, and the risk that rates are going to go up is greater than the likelihood that they'll go down. But it's also about giving our clients flexibility too. Sometimes we have clients that say, well, we've got a whole bunch of plans to issue bonds for more capital projects. And I know that between the work you've done at the elementary school and now the middle school, as I understand, you're not going to be selling new bonds for capital projects in the next couple of years. That's not really a consideration for you. It's from our perspective, when we can help our clients take advantage of bank qualification, it's typically worth it in the marketplace. And the credit that you are, it's a great story to tell to investors and how the market would accept your transaction. We think you'll see some great benefit from BQ and be able to do that again in a relatively short period of time.
That is a savings to our taxpayers, correct, Jay?
Absolutely correct.
So it's not money that comes to us as a district, it's a relief for our taxpayers.
Our payments would be lower, so we would levy less to pay them.
Okay.
Couple clarifying questions. The present value savings is accumulative over the duration of the term of the issuance, right?
Right.
So that in the first column, the $1.1 million is over however many years that bond is paid back over, correct?
Discounted back to today.
Okay.
Yes.
Continuing. That $1.1 million is when we're really talking about the bird in the hand expression, right? That's kind of your most conservative bet right there. Not considering the refunding in 2018, but the going with your bank qualified options. And the second one, it looks to me, if I'm reading this right, the highest possible combination of savings is up to 1.3 million.
Right.
So I'm looking at $200,000 difference between bird in the hand and best case scenario over 20 something years, right?
If you're comparing the NVQ to the BQ, right? Yes.
I'm a conservative investor. I kind of like the bird in the hand.
Yeah.
Like right now, $200,000 on that much money doesn't seem like worth the risk.
It's 130,000, right?
128,409.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was saying, by doing it today, but
Yeah.
what they're saying is if you waited 2 years, and rates didn't change, it could be considerably more.
Right, so wait 2 years and then you might look at 1.9.
Right,
Yes.
or 2.2 in
That one, I
Non-discount.
don't trust that rates are going to change.
So that's where the rate question comes in.
Yeah.
How much do you think rates are going to go up? And I think what you said was roughly 30 to 40 basis points would cancel out those gains.
My magic 8 ball doesn't necessarily come up the same as that. So I'm a conservative investor. I don't know. I seem to.
Yeah, well, that's why I was curious as to, from your perspective, you guys are the experts, what went into your thinking to make the recommendation, the final recommendation that you present here of, spreading out the approach?
The bank qualified benefit.
The bank,
Just to see.
but that's included in the total, isn't it? I mean,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Because I was looking.
Yes, it is.
Almost 200.
One of the things that you said early on was something about 2 bites. If we were to refund all of them now, we can't refund the 2008s again.
anything that you refund in 2008 on a tax exempt basis, which that's what all this analysis is, that's your one bite at the apple. So if down the road you want to
That's it.
refinance or restructure any payments, you'd have to look at a taxable transaction.
I see. So that would argue in favor of, I guess, not refunding them all. It's of course not a decisive factor, but
Well, only if you thought rates were going to go down. Because if rates are going up, it's to your advantage to refund them all now.
Or if
Right.
you thought,
yes.
or if you thought, gosh, a few years from now, we're going to be selling more bonds. We're going to go to referendum.
Which we're not going
Right.
to do.
Yeah,
That's
that's
sorry to say the R word, but if you
Yeah.
thought that, then we should step back and look at this a little bit differently.
Right.
I see. Okay.
Right.
Right.
What's our timeline here, Tammy? Like, when do we have to make these decisions by?
Sure.
And
I just want to make sure, based on what Mark says, I just want to make sure I understand this one more time. I'm going to go, I hate to tax your patience,
It's
but
okay.
the difference between doing them all now and getting the 1.159 savings as compared to splitting it up, that's the NBQ approach.
Mhm.
Splitting it, and those are net savings, right?
Yes.
Okay. As opposed to splitting it up and getting the extra $130,000 in savings. The only reason you would do that is if you think rates are not going to go up more than roughly 30 basis points.
39, right?
Well, that's the key question from my perspective.
Okay, let me make sure I heard you
Okay.
correctly. So
What we're betting in the second case is by waiting that rates are going to stay the same,
mhm.
right?
Yes.
Because if rates go up, we're not going to get the savings we expect.
Right.
So I guess the question I have is, how much can rates go up
Yeah.
to allow us to not lose the savings we would have had we done it all now?
Right. Right. And that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. That is not 39 basis points.
39
The 39 basis points is comparing the two BQ approaches in the middle and the right-hand side of the page.
Okay.
The analysis you just mentioned, that break-even point is closer to about 80 to 85 basis points.
Okay.
Right. So they need to go up by 80 basis points by
2 years.
Right.
So that's the bet one. That's the bet
That
one.
would be a lot. I mean,
Well, the Fed just
less than-
raised.
less than
the
two-
Fed-
less
the
than
Fed-
2
The
years.
Fed, for the first time in how many years, just raised the basis point? What
Oh,
it was?
gosh. How long had it been?
No. How much did it just go up?
quarter point.
25 basis points.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the first time in
8 years?
no,
8 years. 8
8
years.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're not going to go back down. So the chances,
Right.
I mean, the whole thing was they thought they were going to do it again at the end of this year,
Right.
but given where we are, they're probably going. It's likely that they're going to do it again. The question
Right.
is, will it be more
Are they
than?
going to go up a quarter
Right.
Right.
point every quarterly median
Right.
And that's
for the next 2 years?
And that's one variable
What's
that
that?
influences the municipal bond market too.
Right.
There's lots of other things.
Right.
So
So that's why I kind of sit where Mark does. I'm a conservative investor too, and I protect assets as best I can, not knowing what's going to happen in the future. That's why I'm curious. Even when it's my money, it doesn't matter. That's why I'm curious as to why. And so I kind of lean toward taking the savings now.
Okay.
That's why I'm curious as to why you think or you recommend that we, split them up. And is it just on the base? And I guess it is that you think rates are not going to go up as much as or more than 39 basis points. That's your bet.
Not necessarily. It's because we often find our school district clients want to have some flexibility and not lock in all the savings all at once.
Why would you do that?
Because, well, again, that bank qualified benefit, and depending on
But that's in the net savings already.
it is in the
We're looking at apples to apples here, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And just depending on the duration, the period of time, we're talking about 8 months of risk. Some boards of education say that's a lot of risk I don't want to take, and others say we don't think that's that much risk. I mean, it's a really sort of individual board decision. If you said, we want to go with the non-bank qualified, all of it right now, let's be done with it, I don't think that's a bad decision, and I'd be very comfortable if that's what you want to do. It's our job to show you the different numbers and give you options.
But it's also your job, because you're the professionals, to make a recommendation,
Absolutely.
which you have, and that's why I'm pressing you a little
Sure.
bit as to what your thinking is with respect to argue with me about why the position that Mark and I like to take is
John just enjoys a good argument.
I'm learning that.
No, I'm just trying to, you have much more information about these things than I will ever have.
Sure.
And I'm just curious to understand why, if you were in my shoes or our shoes, why you think it's worth waiting 2 years to do this. And I assume it's because you think rates aren't going to go up enough to make a difference.
So you asking me, do I think you should wait 2 years?
No, I'm asking you why you're recommending that. You're recommending we refund $9 million now and we wait
Yeah.
No,
2
no.
years to refund.
1 or 2 years.
Well, I don't think that's exactly right, because part of the recommendation here is that we do some of it in these other two options now as well.
Right.
But so then you avoid as much negative
Arbitrage.
right.
Right.
Which,
Our recommendation is to pursue, a bank qualified transaction in 2016, and then come back in 6 months and say, we should talk about this again, and do you want, look what rates have done. Do you want to do another BQ transaction in 2017, and we can tee that up quickly, or do you want to wait further?
But I think you're waiting, we put at risk the fact that rates may go up enough to
5.7.
offset the savings that we would have had, right?
Right.
And the upside is only $128,000 if you compare
Mhm.
option 1 to option 2.
And option 3 is
You-
another
if you-
50.
I'm hearing you say that you think that you should do the first option now.
Well, that's
Because
what
we're
see, I'm
concerned.
kind of leaning to the second option.
I know this question's been asked already,
Okay.
but the blue line present value savings is net of negative arbitrage?
No, I apologize. I thought you meant net the cost of issuance. It is. They're both. So the negative arbitrage is listed at the bottom.
Yep.
So yes, if we didn't have any negative arbitrage in the NBQ refunding in 2016, you could add about $440,000 to the $1,159,000.
So it's net of it.
So it is net?
It is net. Yes, I just want to make sure we're thinking the same way. And I should have said
So
that
that's
too.
the money in our pocket?
It is, and that I see again. I think about this not only in terms of where are rates today and the savings you can achieve,
See.
but I also think about the negative arbitrage, and you have the
Yeah.
most negative arbitrage
Right.
the NBQ refunding today.
And why
So-
do I care if it's net of that?
So
If the bottom line is,
understand.
I don't understand
I
the.
understand. Right,
You-
but again, if that's the trade-off as a board you have to make, is
I don't
what can we
understand.
lock in today?
see,
I don't
I see.
understand why I care.
I-
I just look at the bottom line and I.
Because if rates stayed the same in the next 2 years and you'll have almost no negative arbitrage and you'll have more savings
Right.
than you
It's,
otherwise would.
so you're going back to the gamble on the rates.
On the rates.
Right. Right.
Burn the hands.
I like the 8.9 right now.
What's
Because
that?
the present value savings as a percentage is higher because of the arbitrage factor
And the
in.
BQ benefit. You're
Right.
selling the bonds at about 20 to 25 basis points lower on that piece than if they were non-bank qualified.
Right.
So you're saying the middle option, Phil?
Yeah.
That's the one that I'm leaning toward too.
So you make 128 grand in additional savings.
And you're betting that rates are going to
And
go
you're making
more
a
than
bet.
39 basis points. That's
Oh,
what.
No, they're not. It's 80 basis points,
Right.
It's 80.
not 39. It's 80-ish.
How do you
It
get
says
80?
39 here.
But that's comparing
It's between
Two
this
and
and
this
three.
middle
Got
and
it.
this middle,
Okay.
not
Right.
this.
So this
to
is
this.
so we're
Right.
saying break even between the leftmost two columns and the right six, whatever it is about 80.
Yeah,
You're-
80 basis points.
And I think,
You're basically getting, you're getting $160,000 less.
I think you're gonna have to take a quick straw to see where everybody is, because I'm hearing.
So Phil, you're talking about a difference between those two numbers of 1.15 and 1,287,000.
Is 160,000.
128,000.
160.
$128,000 over 20 years. So $6,000 a year at risk.
Yeah.
Seems like a big risk.
Yeah. I'm just a conservative guy, so I would go, my preference would be to take it now and to get it over with and not worry about it and not think about it. And I don't know, what do you think, Joe?
How many are you guys on the? How many of you are on the page with John? Just so you guys can see.
I could do either
where
one.
we stand.
Take it now?
I'm gonna take it
I mean,
now.
I think that The bank qualified option, you're taking advantage of
Right.
the government basically giving you a better interest rate, and it just allows you to,
But
it
then that,
lowers the risk, the interest rate risk for the future, because they're gonna pay you again in 2017 to issue bonds, so you can afford to have a little bit higher interest rate. But it is more work to do too, and it's not a huge sum of money between the two, so, I could see going either way. I don't think that
just the
waiting
brain power to
is
think about this
super
2 years from
useful.
now.
So
I
here's
could
what,
see a case for either one, really.
I
could see a case for one.
And I think you guys are evenly divided, so you're gonna have to give us some kind of direction on where to go.
Well, let me offer something.
Well, that's why I asked the timeline
Yes,
question before.
right. So, as you did in the past with the working cash bond sale last year, well, let me back up. The process to refund bonds is a lot simpler than when you did that. You don't have to have any public hearings or notices in the newspaper or anything like that. It's one board meeting to authorize a parameters resolution and an escrow resolution. And remember, the parameters resolution, as it sounds, sets forth certain parameters: maximum amount of bonds to be sold, minimum savings target, maximum interest rate we'll accept, things like that. The parameters resolution that we're suggesting you might consider terminating on March 15th could allow for BQ or non-BQ. By the time we think we can get into the market, it's probably going to be mid-April, just the steps we have in the process, which is over a month and a half away. If we allow for either scenario in this, we can keep the administration apprised of what's going on in the market. If we see a significant change in rates, remember the parameters resolution is valid for 6 months, first of all, and it also doesn't bind the board to do anything.
So just to be clear, the parameters resolution can be written so that we could go on either side. of
Either
this.
way, that's
Okay.
right. We would not need a firm decision really until probably, end of March, early April.
Can you come back in a March meeting and give us an update on this?
Tammy, we have a committee of the whole meeting on the 8th, and we have a regular board meeting on the 15th. And then we are not back for a board meeting till April 12th.
April 12th. Okay, well, we could, I could come back, I would say either March 15th, it gives us a little more time to see what the market does, or push it off till April 12th.
So what do you guys want to do?
Why don't
Because we go into the market about that time anyway, so.
not a whole lot's going to change between now and April 12th.
I don't feel like I need more time. Do people feel like more
I mean, you're
time?
betting. I don't bet on whether the market's going up or down. I don't know who else around this table does. I mean, it's impossible to make that determination.
But
And what-
if it moved by 25 basis points in either direction, would that change your posture on whether to go NBQ or BQ?
No,
Okay.
not with respect to
Is
looking
there
at
a
net
Fed meeting
savings.
between now and
No.
the next?
No. Don't believe so. There'll be some reports that come out, unemployment reports, things like that, that sometimes move the needle a little bit on municipal rates, but
Do some now, some later.
I think it's clear that you want to do something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
passing the resolution
At
to
least
allow
to be
you
nice,
to do
right?
it would be.
What?
She said she could go either way.
You could go either way. Or you
I want to think about it.
Oh, you
some
do
more.
want more time?
I do. Unfortunately, I can't be here on the 15th.
Well, and you just said at the beginning of the presentation, I mean, just with the Fed rate increase, it had the municipal bond market had an opposite reaction. So it's not always proportional.
It's just started to turn back, though. You can't. It was unpredictable to begin with.
Right.
From my perspective, looking at it, it was unbelievable. And now it's starting to turn back, and who knows where it'll go back. So I mean, it's not something you can safely say is going to go one way or the other. So the question really is, what's your investment posture more than anything else, and how comfortable do you feel with interest rates? I mean, it's a bird in the hand worth two in the bush. Do you want to save $1.159 million now, bet that the rates aren't going to go up more than 80 basis points, and get another $128,000 if we spread it out over 2 years? That's what it is, right?
No.
Yes, but kind of, because in the second option, we're getting the 998,912 of it now.
Now.
So what's in question is really just the
second
288.
half.
Yeah. So it's a smaller piece of it that's at risk for that gamble.
Those are the savings. Yeah.
Right.
Right. If I was pressed right now, I'd say the 8.9. That seems to me the conservative way of doing things.
Right.
Betting interest rates aren't going up.
Well, not going up 80 basis points.
Right.
Just as I looked at,
By December.
if you look at the the option, the middle option, the immediate savings of 998,000,
Yes.
that is 86% of the the bird in the hand approach.
Yes.
So you're guaranteeing, if you went with the middle approach, you know you'd at least bring in 86% of that first.
Right.
So you're risking 14% to gain. What's the additional percentage? Not
It's 100. It's like 15%.
what's percentage of 1.287?
But what you do is you mitigate your negative arbitrage, which is the other thing you got to take into consideration there.
Which is certain.
7,687 divided by 115.
Any day we can talk about negative arbitrage.
You're risking 14%.
That's a new word of the day. Tomorrow's breakfast with my kids.
That's right.
Well, you were here 5 years ago. It's real.
And that's all we know. That was 4 years ago because I heard about that.
My
a lot
personal
when I first
opinion
did.
aligns with John. I would. My recommendation is to take the bird in the hand today. However, I don't think it makes any difference if we write the parameters to allow us to go either way and wait another month. I have no problem with that if that's what people want to do. Plus, we have another board member who might sway us in a different direction. You never know.
And we'll have an opportunity to discuss this at the committee of the whole, which is now a regular meeting.
March 8th.
On the 8th, so that we can be ready to make a decision.
Then you could probably give us, it's not going to give Tammy enough time, so Tammy's going to, you would have to go ahead and draft both parameters.
Well, I would suggest we draft the parameters to allow for either one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and we just.
And then they can
then we'll
discuss
get
it the
direction
8th,
on what
and
we want to do.
they can discuss it the 8th and vote on it the 15th then. Is that good for everybody?
Sure.
I'm hoping either way. I don't think we're going to change, but it'd be nice to also digest some of this also.
Understood. And if you, I believe I can be here on March 15th. Let's double check, but I think I can, and that would help.
I wonder if March 8th is when we really need you.
Well, you won't
Like
be here
15th.
the 15th, you said.
I know, but which is self-interested, of course. But on the 8th, I think is where we're going to come to a pretty
We should,
final resolution.
I don't, we don't need any more information. We all know what we have. So it's just a matter of deciding what you're most comfortable with,
So
right? Nothing's going to change
See-
between now and the 8th.
At the end of the day, it's
So-
really what's the acceptable outcome of the board, right? And if, as you're saying, if you're happy with the savings on the NBQ in 2016, 8% PV savings, if that's acceptable to you, then
And to me, that is exactly the question: is the difference between 7.96 and 11.15.
right.
what's the board's goal? I mean, 10 or 15 years ago in this industry, if we saw refundings with 3 and 4 and 5% PV savings, we were having a party. Now you see almost double digit, or in your case, in the BQ scenario, it's double digit. I mean, that's almost been unheard of until the last few years. There's significant savings in the market right now.
Either way, we don't go wrong.
Right.
So it's just a matter of
What's the board's goal?
whatever we're comfortable with.
So,
So do people want more time, or is it just that we're kind of?
I want more time.
You do want more
Yes,
time.
I do.
So you'll be here on the 8th?
I will be here on the
Why
8th.
can't we schedule it for the 8th and she'll be here?
it's going to be a regular meeting now anyway,
Rich, where are you on this?
which is going to be
Where am
okay.
I on this? I don't think interest rates are gonna rise a point in the next 2 years. But it's not my money.
Right.
It's, if it were my money, I would wait 2 years. It's not my money.
Well, and I think the thing about doing the 8.9 is you've then just reduced the volatility to
Exactly.
that
The other thing is, as I understand, if it did go up 99 basis points, it would be equivalent to the same thing we'd be looking at now.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes up a point, we've lost nothing.
exactly. Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Right. And we lock in some of that savings by doing 8.9
That's interesting.
now, and we put
If it goes up a point.
less
Decide
over.
to do that, yes.
Yeah.
So,
So option 2?
let's go with the first thing. Does anybody need more time?
I need more time.
Okay.
Yeah, I even want to think about it some more.
So, would you like to discuss it and vote on it March 8th?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yes.
All right, there we go.
And Jay wants to say.
Well, I
Are you crazy?
Do we?
No, you're passing,
Do we need to?
you just need to pass a parameter resolution at the next meeting, and you don't have to decide what you're gonna do necessarily until
the issue.
until you issue it. Yeah, then Tammy will say, this is what the market looks like. Which of these do you want to do? You just need to write your resolution broadly enough so that she has flexibility to do whatever
Either
best
one.
at the time.
But like April 12th, will we be looking at revised numbers, or, okay, this is what the market looks like now, this
We
is,
can do that, yeah.
Tammy, can you do one other thing? I don't know how, this shouldn't be that hard, but could you build in a couple of assumptions about what happens to these numbers if the rates go up 25 basis points, 25 basis, maybe do 3 different assumptions?
What does
So-
every 25 basis points do in terms of
Yeah,
savings?
yeah, to the savings.
So now I just heard April. So
Wait, why are we talking about April?
no, we're gonna have that discussion on the 8th. And then we're gonna pass a parameters resolution that allows her to do either. And then on the 12th, we're gonna have a check-in point, and she's gonna say, yeah, it really looks good for X or Y, and we'll make a final decision on the 12th,
of April.
right? Is that what you're saying?
Doesn't seem like the most efficient thing to keep rehashing and rehashing.
Certainly not.
Well, it's a lot of money, and if there is some argument to be made for.
Well,
I don't mind waiting.
Are you both of our
Can you
financial
come to the
advisors-
March,
both
the
of our
earlier
financial
March
advisors-
meeting?
I believe so, yeah,
Okay.
I'll double check.
But if she runs it just on this one page, it'll show you, and then you can make your own choice. If basis points go up 25 points, it'll show you what the difference is. It'll go 50 points. And once we get that information, it may change our mind, or it may help us think through it a little more thoroughly. So March 8th we meet,
Okay,
we decide.
And we can decide future then.
that would be great.
I am mindful that both of these folks came to us today with an 8.9 recommendation. I appreciate that they're open-minded, but walking in today, that's what we heard from our experts. So I need some time to think about it before I take the bird in the hand.
Yeah, well, that's what we're all saying.
I know.
The only other thing I wanted to mention is their working cash bond sale last year was a negotiated sale, where we went through an RFP process, if you remember, and
Right.
selected William Blair upfront to sell the bonds. And a lot of that was because it was a 20-year structure, so for investors, market risk of buying your bonds, that was an appropriate approach. Given that this is only about an 11 or 12-year maturity, short, and whether it's BQ or non-BQ, by the way, we'd recommend a competitive sale. Much like you solicit bids for other things in the district, we'd ask underwriters to submit competitive bids on the day of your sale. So you just give the bonds to the firm that gives you the lowest interest cost. So that would be our recommendation, unless you feel strongly that you'd like to do a negotiated sale.
Yeah. No matter what happens, the citizens of Lake Bluff will be happy. Right.
Right?
That's a good
Right.
point.
Yeah,
Right.
another $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, we saved $2.5 million in the last refinancing we did for the district back in 2013. So this is another $1 million. It'd be $3.5 million in savings on these bond issuances. That's pretty spectacular, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
This is a good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Recommendations.
Oh, sure, no, it's not stuff you
No, it certainly is not.
All of them. All right.
She's very good at what she does.
We're going to move on to the portion of our meeting where we strap on our seatbelts and we go through the action items at a rapid pace because we have discussed, I think, all of these in our committee of the whole. So we are intimately familiar with this stuff. So, I'm going to pull up a screen here.
Let's do it.
Okay, item 9A, approval of license 2016-17 staffing plan 9A. So, may I have a motion to approve the 2016-2017 license staffing plan with no net change in full-time equivalents, FTEs, as presented by the administration? We discussed this at length.
So moved.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns for Dr. Sophie or her staff? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Hood,
Yes.
Rosen,
Yes.
Ryder,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Charlo, yes. Hay.
Yes.
Motion's approved. 9B. Now we are dealing with the approval of the 2016-2017 school calendar for 2007. Approval of 2016-17 school calendar and 2017-18 framework. We've been through that again as well. Is there anything that you need to add or highlight?
I just want to remind everybody, and I've shared with the parents, this does mean that our kids will be in school on Columbus Day next year. Just a reminder.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's kind of faded into the background.
Yeah, I
at
was
this
just
point.
saying.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah.
I think you could take a...
Leaf Erickson. He's
So may I have
finally start recognizing those Scandinavians.
may I have a motion to approve the 2016-2017 school calendar and 2017-2018 framework as recommended by the administration?
This is a
Second. So we got a first and a second. Voice vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passed. Okay.
Strike one.
9C.
Strike one up for the Norwegians.
Approval of 2016-2017 board meeting calendar. So this is item 9C, and we did discuss this, right?
No, I have not discussed this. We aligned this to the school calendar after the last school
Okay.
calendar
All right.
meeting.
Is there anything unusual that you need to point out?
I needed to make sure we had enough meetings set in the summer that if we have any votes to do with the renovations, we've got meetings set up.
And are we still on the same kind of calendar we are now? What is it, the second and
Yes,
fourth Tuesday? Is
to
that
the best of our ability.
Okay. All right, so on item 9C, we have a motion to approve the 2016-2017 board meeting calendar as recommended by the administration.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. 9D. Resolution to authorize TSA Consulting Group, Inc. as the third-party administrator for the 403B and 457B plans. We discussed this last week. Jay gave us sort of his recommendation. Is there anything that you or Jay want to add to this conversation? Highlight this. Any questions for them? So we have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing TSA Consulting Group, Inc. to act as third-party administrator for the district's 403B and 457B plans as of March 1, 2016, as recommended by the administration.
So moved.
Second.
Second, third. Roll call vote, please.
Morozen,
Yes.
Ryder,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Charlot, yes. Haig,
Yes.
Hood.
Yes.
Motion is approved. 9E. Accompanying this resolution, we now have resolutions restating the 403B plan. Again, this is in your board packet. We went over this last week. Any questions or comments for administration? May I have a motion to approve the resolution restating the 403B plan as of March 1st, 2016, as recommended by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ryder,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Charlot, yes. Haig,
Yes.
Hood,
Yes.
Morozen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. 9F. Similarly, we are now talking about a resolution adopting a 457B deferred compensation plan. Any questions on that? May I have a motion to approve the resolution adopting a 457B deferred compensation plan as of March 1, 2016, as recommended by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Barry,
Yes.
Charlot, yes. Haig,
Yes.
Hood,
Yes.
Morozen.
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Personnel report. In your board package, you have a personnel report which highlights the acceptance of a resignation from David Pokey, who is a 6th grade social studies teacher at the middle school, and Amy Estvander, a 1st grade teacher at the elementary school, and to approve a conditional leave of absence for Francis Zale, 1st grade teacher at the elementary school for the 2016-2017 school year. May I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve the personnel report for February 23rd, 2016, as presented by the administration.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Haig,
Yes.
Hood,
Yes.
Morozen.
Yes.
Ryder,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Charlot, yes.
Motion is. Did we hit Rich? Did you say hey?
Yeah.
First.
That's first one. I believe we get rich.
Go on, I got to strap in my seatbelt even tighter. Sorry. Consent agenda. This week's consent agenda includes the special Board of Ed meeting minutes from 1/19/2016, the closed session minutes from January 26, 2016, the regular meeting minutes of January 26, 2016, the policy review committee meeting minutes from February 8th, 2016, the January P-card report, the February bills report, the February impress report, the January treasurer's report. Any one of those items that somebody would like to discuss that we should pull from the consent agenda?
No.
No? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for the February 23rd, 2016 as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Hood,
Yes.
Morozen,
Yes.
Ryder,
Yes?
Barry,
Yes.
Charlo, yes. Haig.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you, Rich.
Glad to hear from you.
Thinking I need tonight.
Agenda item number 10, FOIA request. We did receive a request from Smart Procure for any and all electronic purchasing records from October 23rd, 2015 to the present. This request took 15 minutes of administrative time to complete. Anything else you want to add on
Getting
that?
fast.
That was a good one.
We get the same for every 2 or 3 months, and
Who's-
so it's
Very
very
nice.
Who runs the timer on those?
We take a lot of time to figure it
All
out.
right.
We now
Kevin stands in the hall.
I think this is the fastest 2.5 hour meeting we've ever had.
We now have open the floor to public comments. If anybody from our vast audience would like to approach the podium, please do so now.
I move we adjourn.
Not seeing anybody.
So
We have a
moved.
motion to adjourn the Board of Education meeting for February 23rd, 2016 at 9:30 p.m. We've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. See you next month.
Got a lot done, Mark.